Hello, this is the Harboring Light. I'm Mary. I simply give a conservative perspective about the world around me. As I like to do in the beginning of the episodes of the podcast, mention social media and audio platforms. Social media, I will link that in this episode. Audio platforms, I'm on Spotify for podcasters. I'm on Overview. I'm on Pandora. I'm on iHeartRadio. I'm on Audible, Amazon Music, and I'm looking to grow to wherever you enjoy your podcast. I'm on that. And also to add on, I'm putting my content on Substack, so keep a lookout for that. I will include that link on the next episode that I'm doing as far as that goes. And also, please, you enjoy my content, please follow. And also, feel free, if you want to support this podcast, feel free to do that. The link will be included in that and all of that. So, this particular episode is about Stephen King books, and about the whole I'm gonna dig deep and do a deep dive and talk about this with my husband, about the social commentaries that are in the books, particularly with It and Dolores Claiborne. And my husband will mention other books, about Stephen King. And then we're also going to discuss the social appearance that he has in the media as of today, and also including with that his social media presence of today. So let's go and let's get into it. All right, Stephen King.
Well, some people say he's the king of horror.
Mm-hmm.
I would say he's this side of the world's king of horror, or champion of horror. He stands on one side of the world as the top horror writer, where Clive Barker, which I believe we're going to talk about later, stands on the other side of the world. And they're two giants in the field. Stephen King's kind of an enigma, because he spent his whole career arguing that what he was writing is free speech, and that his book he shouldn't be judged, and his book shouldn't be judged or viewed at as anything other than artwork and the sayings and stuff. Because when Blaze was getting removed from libraries, and all the issues he was having with Blaze, he adamantly stood on the side of, people should be able to say and write what they want, and the ideas of art and, things should stand to their own. And you get to where he is now, talking crap about a president, making fun of, or not really making fun, but making his own personal commentary of things they've said, when coming from an alcoholic who's written minor orgies. And when I say minor orgies, I mean orgies
with minors.
Yeah, writing about orgies that consisted of minors in his writings. Sexually assaulting a man with a pistol, and vast other things that, people say, well, that's his art. Well, he created that art in his mind. He thought that up.
Right. Yeah.
So, he has his own skeletons in his own closet. He's got a lot of issues that, he's dealt with. And, it seems a little hypocritical of him to, some of the posts he does on Twitter and some of the things he goes, but separating that from his writing, his writing is very good, very graphic, and can be
Yeah.
very out there sometimes.
Yeah.
But, when it comes to the horror stuff that he has, it is pretty extreme.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's some of the best. I mean, like I said, Clive Barker is the other side of the world on that, but his is very graphic and
Hmm.
out there as well.
Yeah, I think it's really ironic because especially the things that he said with Kyle Rittenhouse saying, you know, uh, pretty much going on along with the bandwagon of everybody else saying that Kyle Rittenhouse was he should be, punished when Kyle Rittenhouse was trying to stand up for his beliefs. And it's just
Right.
unbelievable because, so many people have done so much backlash against Stephen King novels and, what Stephen King says, in the past. And, he's, um, all of this misunderstanding of what he wants to speak about in his novels, and then to go and say something like this is just
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Well, and what's funny about that is Kyle Rittenhouse could easily have been a character created by
Yeah,
Stephen King. When you look
absolutely.
at it, you know, the main character is a character who was quiet but stood up to do the right thing. Same thing in The Stand. Same thing in The Long Walk. Ray Garrity in The Long Walk, which
Hmm.
is written as a Bachman book. I'd really like to just do that as a whole separate thing, but
Yeah, and
um,
Dolores Claiborne, she well, what Bill is, I believe, is essentially the main character in it.
mhm,
But with I'll go in more detail about it. But especially with Dolores Claiborne, she is a battered woman, and she's going through this horrific things, and with her husband, abusing her, and then trying to sexually assault their daughter, and then
mhm.
she's doing all she can to protect everything, but at the same time trying to comfort her children and to find humor in everything and all of that.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, Bill or William and he goes out and to fight the clown, to fight the evil, and whether or not people believed him or not, he was fighting, standing up to those bullies and fighting the bullies and fighting the evil of the clown. In the Gunslinger series, the Dark Tower series, following the Gunslinger, they're the heroes who go out and who fight against things, who show up and just fight. And yet you have him now, he'll call out somebody who went out to protect his town. And you have all the people who said he traveled across state lines, which is, anybody who's ever lived near a border of two states can tell you, you know living in the border of Texas and Oklahoma, you know you call both your home. There are towns that you go to and visit that are your home in your area, because sometimes you may be in Texas, sometimes you may be in Oklahoma. I used to live in a town called Van Buren, Arkansas, which was right on the state lines, and I would travel into Oklahoma constantly and knew tons of people in Oklahoma because of how close the proximity was. So saying things like that is kind of ridiculous. But then, people were lying, and he bought into it. Of, oh, he shot a black man when he didn't shoot a black man at all.
Yeah,
He defended himself against people trying to assault him. He
right.
ran for miles
Hmm.
before he had to defend himself
Right.
again.
Hmm.
He had somebody attack him. And
Hmm.
when you see the videos, if anybody, I doubt Stephen King took the time to watch the trials or anything like that and watch the evidence that was submitted, you see a man following him around and instigating the first person to attack him, and then he ran and was running, trying to get to police, trying to turn himself in before he was attacked again before being able to get there. If he was running to police and if these people were so worried about what he did, why did they stop him from getting to the police?
Right.
But yet those are things that Stephen King somehow just
Overlooks.
completely overlooks and ignores,
Yeah.
when in his characters they try reaching out to others.
Yeah, they do.
They try, and they see like nobody sees it. No one but them sees it.
No one.
So
Yeah,
they do
that's
what
right.
they have to do themselves. They stand up and they lose and they get knocked out and they get knocked around, but they keep standing up to fight. But he lost that, and I think it shows in his more modern writing that he lost it. Honestly, I think he's ghostwriting a lot of stuff, or he's getting a lot of stuff from ghostwriters, I should say.
Probably.
Making some changes and signing his name to it, because I've read a few of his more recent things, and some of them are just, they don't feel like Stephen King stories. They don't feel like The Stand. They don't feel like Dolores Claiborne. They don't feel like Firestarter. They don't feel like Blaze. They don't feel like The Long Walk. They don't feel like Running Man. They don't, even books that he wrote as Richard Bachman have a feeling of, yeah, this feels like Stephen King. Complete different genres from the horror aspect, but they feel like Stephen King's book. It's like he lost his shine, to use his something that he created and gave to the world, the shine.
Right. Yeah.
It's as if he lost it. He lost contact with it. And then what is the book that just came out and they made the movie, the sequel to Doctor Sleep? I can't remember the name of it.
I'm trying to think.
When it comes to me, I'll say it. But in the sequel to Doctor Sleep, he talks about people getting older and losing their connection to the shine. And honestly, I think that's him writing his own loss of connection to his ideas and to his story. And I think it's, too much of him trying to stay on the right side of not getting canceled.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't know, it's one of those things, how you gotta kind of make your hard decision. It's either you want to be in favor for what you actually believe in, or you just want to bury your head down in the sand and just go along with whatever you think somebody else is going to agree with, so you can, keep your momentum going.
And you know what? I said it, sequel to Doctor Sleep, when I meant sequel to The Shining.
Right. Yeah, which is Doctor Sleep. That's so I was confused about that. Okay.
Right, yeah,
All right.
Sleep
Yeah.
is the sequel to
The
Shining,
and that movie. Oh, I'm gonna get back to it, but that movie, it loses. It's one of those things again, because it doesn't connect truly and organically with what the book is trying to convey, I think, which you see that a lot in the adaptations, because Danny with his father, it has an honest depiction in Doctor Sleep of why Danny's father was the way that he is.
Right.
He, in all intensive purposes, from what I understand, his father didn't start out being, this monster rut of a person. He was just broken, and it just finally.
Right. Yeah. He slowly turned into it. It was there.
Yeah, it was there in him, and yeah,
he had the capacity for it. He had the capacity to be that.
And he had those tendencies. Yeah.
He wasn't the best guy.
No. Yeah.
But he also wasn't the worst guy.
Right. Yeah.
But that was something that The Shining and that a lot of Stephen King's books did. You didn't have to be the best guy. Not everybody was perfect and pure.
Mm-mm.
You know,
Yeah.
people had their flaws, and he wrote that his heroes and his main characters with their flaws, and he wrote their antagonists with their good.
Right.
And
Yeah.
uh he he turned it into something where in his more recent books where it's like just, oh no, this is what's acceptable, so this is what it is and this is what it's not, and let me stay within this realm
Right.
of what's acceptable.
Right. You gotta separate the book from the film adaptation, but at the same time, I think it's even better to separate those things, but to respect and to go into depth and to try what you can to masterfully tell the stories that were in the books. So with it, I think that it's told, but it's not told into depth to way it would make it the movies even that was already produced even better. So this is what I say. This is what I mean by this. So, for instance, the issues with homosexuality, the issues with racism, and okay, the way it's presented, and it's so relevant today, absolutely. And so, okay, let's start out with homosexuality. So, I mean, it's touched. It's just you just see it in a surface level. It's just talk mentioned, as a memento to me with the remake of it, part two. So, the way it's presented in the book, it's just best way I can describe it. It's more heartfelt and honest. So you really get to understand and see the problems with just centering yourself in your own bubble, in your own world. So, for instance, when um the it killed one of the boyfriend of the person that was in the story, no one in the town was even trying to help or anything like that, because it's in you read between the lines, and it's understood that it's not really acceptable yet in the minds of these people that live in this town. And it even goes into detail of um how that can be very harmful, because the person that what the gay man that the how they would socialize in the bar with the guy who ran the bar, they came up with these stories that were overhyped, that it didn't actually happen, and without understanding that you know just because these people happen to be gay, their sexuality does not define them. They're trying to just live their lives and be humbled about their experiences. And it mentioned that if they want to be outlandish and really hey, rah rah, look at me, da da da, you don't do that in this town. You go to New York, you go California, you go out there. And it just, I think if stuff like that was presented in the remake of it would really um, dig up these conversations, these honest conversations about the issues of living in your own judgment and not really understanding the reality of what's going on um, around you. And then,
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's actually kind of ironic.
yeah,
So, if you want to be gay, sure, whatever.
yeah,
Who cares?
right, absolutely, yeah,
I don't understand why it's a big deal to anybody. I don't
hmm,
understand why it's a big deal to people who are gay, lesbian, whatever, to
sure,
have to tell people.
yeah, right,
But I
you
also
know,
don't understand why if somebody comes up and tells you, "Oh, I'm gay," it's like, cool, I
okay,
don't
yeah,
care. What's that have to do with anything right now? But the idea of being accepting of someone's sexuality that I don't care to know anyways,
yeah, right,
but being accepting of it, if you live, work, and at a certain point at a certain age, you choose where you live.
hmm,
You can move, and if you live in an area where these things, like being in a certain way
hmm,
isn't very acceptable, would get you more unwanted attention than what you're going to do,
hmm,
you're not being very accepting if you go out trying to force everyone else to just not care, instead of just saying, hey, these people don't like this, I'm not going to push it on them. It's the same thing
hmm,
if you live in a neighborhood where the average house costs $10 million,
right,
and you don't take care of your house,
hmm,
and you drive around a busted up 80s model Honda CRX that sounds like it's missing on 3 cylinders and dying on the fourth, and no exhaust except for a trash can welded onto the back, with 6 different color body panels on it, no windows, you're going to get a lot of unwanted attention in
yeah,
that
yeah,
neighborhood. Even
hmm,
if you've lived there your whole life, people are going to get mad at you,
yeah, they
and they're
are,
going to give you the attention, because it's at a certain point you're reaching out for it, and no matter how much you say you just want people to accept, and this, when you start doing things that draw attention to you, you're going to get attention. You don't control the type of attention you get. And that
right,
was something that
that which
in
is,
a lot of the books
hmm,
Stephen King would write, like, hey, these people weren't going out searching for attention, they were
no,
trying to be low key
yeah, that's what they were
in
trying,
their
yeah,
area,
uh-huh,
so it's understandable that the person going after them is evil.
sure,
Sure. But then you get into areas like The Stand, and this is one of the things that I just don't understand about Stephen King, is because, he tries to do all these things, but most of the time when he writes anything about homosexuality, it's
yeah,
almost as if he's writing about an internal struggle of himself,
maybe I think that is because,
because every person that
hmm,
is against homosexuality is violently
against
against homosexuality.
sexuality,
Like,
mm,
every time it's brought up, there is someone who is violently
yeah,
attacking. It can't just be
mm-mm,
they're gay.
no,
Oh, hey, we don't like that.
yeah,
It is always in The Stand. It's, I'm going to sexually assault you with the pistol of a gun.
yeah,
You know, you're going to do this. And he writes in graphic detail about the pistol going into a man's anus,
right,
and tearing it up and stuff like that.
hmm,
And then he
he does
writes in
that
graphic
in
detail
graphic
about how they
detail,
beat him. And he alludes to the guy who's doing it as also being closeted homosexuals and
yeah,
stuff.
mm,
But it is the type of thing that where it's Is this something that you want to do? Is this something that you fantasize about?
Right.
Is this something that you feel and you're not expressing it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of besides the point. You
Right.
know, Stephen King was a great writer, and that's one of the things that really made the books, because you can see these things that are like, man, that is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree with homosexuality.
Right. Yeah.
I don't believe it's something that you're born as.
No, I don't
You
believe
know,
that
I
either. I
think
think
it's
it's a
more of
choice,
something
really.
that you choose,
Yeah.
and if you don't feel like you have a say in the choice, like, okay, sure, you may be sexually attracted to men.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I don't like to say it, but I've had sex with women that I wasn't sexually attracted to.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's honest. I
You
mean,
know,
why?
I'm sure there's women who've had sex with men that they weren't sexually attracted to, but they got something from it.
Right. Yeah.
Either a relationship, something that they weren't getting, they were getting from it, and that's kind of the situation I was in when, you know, like, well, shit, what am I doing? Well, here's this woman who is interested in me. I'm not super interested in her, but we'll see where things go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when people say, "Well, it's different with the opposite sex," it's like, I know a lot of gay men who were in the closet for a while and who were having sex with their wives. So if they can figure out a way to get it up for their wife enough to have children and stuff, like, yeah, it seems like it is kind of a choice, especially when you have people that I've heard them come out of their mouths. I'm the champion turner. I can turn any girl gay. I can turn any man gay. I love making love to straight men. It's like, so if you're saying that you're not born, if you're saying that you're born that way, these people are born gay. You're not turning them gay. They're just gay. Like, you didn't turn anybody. But that's the contradiction of that whole movement is, however we feel, whatever we say, you have to accept us. We're not going to be tolerant of anything, but you better be tolerant of us. And that's one of the things that Stephen King does. He's like, everybody needs to acknowledge and care about what I write, and I need to be able to write and put anything in these books without being edited at all.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm going to have my say again about things in the political world, in the political aspect, when he's not the best person to be saying anything, not even outside of his writing, just you know himself. I think famous people should keep their mouths shut, but I never understood when, like, uh when it comes to his older books, like, just anybody who's read Stephen King's books, whether it's Stephen King's or Richard Bachman, his pseudonym, when you read his books, you can feel him. Whether you hate it or love it, in it. You feel what seems important to him. Same thing in The Stand. Same thing in Firestarter. Um, but you get to some of his new books, like The Institute. You could kind of feel it, but for some reason, he felt that urge, the need to take jabs at Donald Trump as president, as if anybody's going to care about that in 20 years from after the book's been released. Like, most people are going to be like, what? Huh? I don't, oh, yeah, I guess. But he felt the need to put that in there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
or if he didn't, he allowed his editors to do it, which I get is one of those things like, what? Why? And then you get If It Bleeds. And so The Institute is kind of like a soft sequel to Firestarter, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the realm of
Mm-hmm.
Firestarter.
Yeah.
And then If It Bleeds is a few short stories put together. And this is why I say it feels like he's rubber stamping his name onto some works that were ghost written by some other people that he went through and made a few changes to, or, you know, they don't feel like Stephen King's novels.
Mm.
They don't even still feel like Richard Bachman novels.
Mm.
They feel like, hey, I'm going to give y'all a hand. We're going to see how well these short stories do. And, this production house, this production company might pick y'all up if this book sells pretty good. And his name goes on it. But none of these stories in there, there's one that kind of feels like Stephen King, about a kid and a phone, a kid and a cell phone. And basically, the kid gets this older guy a cell phone because he never had one, and the guy was a business tycoon, stockbroker, made a lot of money, never had a cell phone. Kid gets him an iPhone, gets a call from the dad, kid's getting bullied and stuff, and you know, it has Stephen King-esque feel to it, but it's one out of like the three in this entire thing that actually have a feel that they're Stephen King and not someone else. I mean, honestly, the entire book feels more like R.L. Stine than Stephen King, except for the one part, the one section about the iPhone. But like you were saying, Dolores Claiborne. I mean, it's not the typical King book. It's kind of off on its own little thing. It ties into the world that he created with the Shine and stuff. But he is writing about a woman protecting her family and doing what she had to do, and then just telling the story after the fact.
Mm.
I would say it's less of a horror and more of a noirish book,
Yeah, I would.
detective noirish
Mm-hmm.
book, but from not from the detective's point of view, but from the arrestee's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
But even in that, you feel the things that are important to him. You feel like, oh, Dolores protecting her children, her
Yeah.
daughter from her husband.
Right.
Dolores trying to hide the abuse of
Yeah,
her
from my
husband from
children.
her children,
Mm-hmm.
feeling hurt that her youngest is so much like
Yeah.
her husband.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that those are things that he himself may find important
Right.
because of how much detail he puts into them. And that's just one of the things that make a lot of his books good, is he puts a lot of details into things that can make you feel a certain way.
Yeah. Because the overall feel that you get with Dolores Claiborne, you can feel it's, you can feel the bubbling anxiety, and then you can feel the, um, the warmth and the care and the nurturing, and then you can feel all of that all in one, and you can feel the backbreaking, um, um, mundane agony of what she's going through day in, day out, and then you can also feel the relief and the surprise of everything. So, for instance, how hard and brutal it was for Dolores Claiborne when she was a housekeeper for an affluent woman of the town, and not realizing her connection to uh her presence to her, is, she it paid off in more ways than one, because she left so much to her when she died,
Well, yeah,
not knowing.
and you get into other books like
Yeah.
The Outsider that they
Mhm.
made. That, what was it? Showtime, HBO made the TV show about it. But even in this, you have this feel of, okay, hey, this is a Stephen King book from the beginning.
Yeah, you do.
And
The grittiness of
it's
everything that's
probably
going on in
the
it.
last. real Stephen King book that's kind of original. Doctor Sleep is a sequel, but The Outsider takes elements of the Dark Tower novel, It, and these other things, and kind of ties them together. But it's an original character.
And
But you're following a
right,
guy who's being framed
right,
for a murder of a child, and a lot worse,
yeah,
of a child that he didn't do,
right,
and he gets killed because of it, and you're
hmm
following them trying to prove that he didn't do it,
hmm
trying to figure out what actually happened, and going and traveling across the country, well, feet through across some states, not even across the country, to track down and murder and take out and stop this evil.
right. And I think there's a lot of kudos goes to Jason Bateman because he sat down and he dissected the book and he did what he could to produce this to be authentic as possible to the book. And I,
Yeah,
you know,
it's just it's sad to see if you know it's sad to see this author in decline, because he had his website, he had
yeah,
and it shut down. The
hmm
website that he had shut down, and I had an account on this website of people just talking and going
that
through.
they with the it was a forum,
Hmm.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
mm,
and there was you know they would release information about new books, but people would just talk and go over different aspects of different books and different stories, and ask questions, and they shut it down.
mm,
It was uh, there's no interest, over closing, we're shutting it down, this and that, and it was like his fan site. Oh, don't send nothing to him. Don't, you know, don't, no photos, no, no autographs, no this. And then he goes on and he gets on Twitter and he wants to talk about, and I don't understand it. He'll talk about things that Donald Trump tweets, and he'll talk about things that Elon Musk tweets, and he'll talk about things that anybody with the conservative bent tweets, as if they're and ignorant booty holes,
yeah,
you know, to put it in a manner that's not going to get in trouble. And how how low they are, and how, as if he's so much greater and so much more intelligent, and all these things, and it's like, man, come on, like, you're not the brightest guy. You got hit by a car stepping off the sidewalk in New York City. Like,
Jeez,
I understand a lot of that's not
yikes,
your fault, but what the hell were you
yeah,
doing? It's
oh,
New York. There's more people than cars.
yeah.
You know,
It's unfortunate that happened, but at the same time, geez, guy,
and not only, sure, okay, he can't control getting hit by a car, but
no, yeah, absolutely.
he's also put his foot in his mouth so many times that it's unbelievable. I mean, he completely dropped the ball with the end of his epic that he wanted to write. The Dark Tower. It has an it has an okay ending, and it's a ending that you feel set. You're like, okay, it's over. It's a good ending. It's an I don't even want to say good ending. It's an ending. It's an okay ending, and that's about all it is. Is okay. You have this huge epic journey and this build up to what you think is going to be something to just yeah.
Mm,
It's like it's almost as if he forgot or lost what he was writing and just didn't know and wanted to finish it, and and rush through so much to just try and get it done, to where I don't want to spoil it for anybody who's read it, but you start back at the beginning with no real climax to it.
Wow. Okay.
It just unravels, and it unravels kind of like he's unraveled with a lot of his more modern books, more recent books that just are filled more with political jabs at anybody who could be considered conservative or right wing, and he's got him go out and try to make himself relevant. Oh, Elon Musk said something. Let me try to say something to sound like I'm smarter than a guy who's actually building rockets to go into space. Oh,
All
Donald
right.
Trump said this. Let me say something to make it seem like he's stupid when I could just not say anything because honestly, I don't like Joe Biden, but I don't want Joe Biden to do bad as president because we live in the United States. Get him
Right.
out of the presidency,
Yeah.
prosecute him for
That's
the
right.
things him and his son have done.
Yeah.
But why are you hoping bad for them? Like, why are you? We're all on a boat that person is in charge of with a
You don't want
bunch
us
of
to
other
all to
people.
sink down, and not
You
survive.
right? There's a bunch of other people on this boat that but I think it's something that
Mm.
alcohol ruined his mind. Maybe I don't know,
And
but you have that.
yeah.
You have him doing these things, and then he like went after Joe Rogan. It's like if he gets Joe Rogan would probably be more than happy to have Stephen King
Should talk with
on
him.
there to talk, and he could discuss it all day with him. But honestly, I I could see Stephen King just refusing to go on Rogan, and just being afraid because he would have to stand beside
And answer those
and
questions.
answer direct questions, not through Twitter, not from the comfort of his couch. He would have to answer questions and justify and say these things without an editor to go back and say, "Oh, hey, Steve, come on now, we can't do this," and without and someone like him is going to mess up because there's no way the guy who wrote it, who wrote The Stand, who wrote Blaze, who wrote all these amazing books actually turned into this withered, dying shell. The way the villains in Salem's Lot, and all of these other books, the way they wither and die, the graphicness of how they demise is almost like what's happening to Stephen King. They show them starving to death because they have no one to feed on, no fear.
Yeah.
To eat. And it's like Stephen King doesn't have, because he's treading on eggshells and he has to make sure he says the right things and doesn't make fun of the wrong people and doesn't say the wrong thing about the wrong topic at the wrong time, and he's inclusive enough and has the right people being the hero when he doesn't know how to write that type of hero.
Right.
And he's losing and his soul is being taken from him, and the soul of his writing is being taken from him. And if he goes on to somewhere like Rogan where he's going to be challenged and they're going to come with receipts, he's going to falter. He's going to say something that he knows that he shouldn't, but he's unaware, and he doesn't have the people there telling him, "Hey, don't say that. You can't say that. Shh. You can't write this, Steven. You can't write this. This is unacceptable. Change it. Hey, we need you to tweet this." Right.
And I think that's the issue with getting into the business of being woke / politically correct. You tend to lose your sense of understanding and self. And is very unfortunate. And, to go along the lines of more speaking on how just unfortunate this all is. All right, BLM, Black
Mm-hmm.
Lives Matter. It would blow these people out of the water if they would um, take the time to look at it and um, Mike, his
Mm-hmm.
story, his family story.
Right.
It's just this incredible stand and, pun intended, of saying, okay, his parents, and then what they instilled into Mike, they're saying, okay, yeah, we are Black, but this doesn't define us. We can live our lives and we can just continue to go on and live and do and be a close knit family and just protect and look out for each other. Yeah, sure, because it's unfortunate that it doesn't really show that much in the films. But his dad is talking to him, and he recalls all this in his memory. And then when he stays in the town and talks about this, he's remembering everything his father talked about him to, when he said about his father being in witness of the Ku Klux Klan. And from what I'm remembering, my what I'm understanding, my memory serves me correctly. From my understanding, his father just went in full reality about of racism in the North, which is
Mm-hmm.
not really addressed, and then talking about how you know um just being a witness of all that, and just still going on and living his life and doing the things that he wants to do, and then still trying to mingle with people because he knows that that's just ignorant thinking. And he went, he said, and then going back along of what his sergeant, because his Mike's father served in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember what his sergeant told him, and then carrying that on in his life. And then he went to uh create a bar, so you know um Black people can hang and mingle and have a good time. And then
Right.
he noticed that with that came along, white people came along, and they started to mingle together, and then so on and so forth,
Right.
and all of these things,
Right.
and then
It
just
it's the epitome of the worst thing you can do is run away or stop.
right. And then
You know.
to add on to this is in the time of the 50s,
Right.
and that says a lot
Right.
within
Well,
itself.
because that's the thing. Like, if I'm right and you're wrong,
Hmm.
all I have to do is stand, literally stand,
Yeah.
take a stand. If
Right.
I'm right and you're wrong,
Hmm.
and I'm on the side of virtue,
Right.
I take my stand
Hmm.
the way Mike's father did. He could have easily packed up his family and moved and
Sure.
tried to find somewhere that was more accommodating for
For them. Yeah.
him and his family, a more predominantly Black neighborhood.
Yeah.
But he didn't. Because I'm going to stand and I'm going to plant myself and I'm going to become an institution. I'm going to be a foundation. My family's going to be here longer. You might be here, this KKK organization might be here, but if I'm on the side of right,
Right.
I will grow
Hmm.
and I will become accepted while you get pushed out.
Sure.
And that's what happens.
Hmm.
But you have these people who say, no, 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 no. We can't have that.
Hmm.
You don't need, like, Black people don't need or shouldn't marry white people.
Hmm.
And these are the people who are supposed to be liberal and
Sure.
woke
Yeah.
saying, no, keep your keep black families black, keep blackness black, keep your race pure. Talking about pure race. It's like, hey, I don't know if where you've been, you want to talk about racism, but that's what the KKK was saying back in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s.
When it started
Right.
all
But,
that.
especially in the 70s and 80s, though, like,
Yeah.
hey, no, mixed race families, like
No,
white men marrying black women or black men marrying a white woman. No. We can't have that. We got to keep the race pure. Being all black, being all white, because if you had a drop of blood that was not white in your body, you were impure. You were not that.
No.
And now you got people, Black Lives Matter and all these other people saying the same stuff, like, oh, no, we got to keep black families black because look, it's like blackness is gonna go away. That's the same thing as the Ku Klux Klan saying whiteness is gonna go away.
Sure.
Our white heritage is gonna go away and stuff. If you really want to not care about it, don't care about it.
Yeah.
Like, if you really think that you want to end racism, then everybody needs to be getting together. Like, this whole, that's cultural appropriation. No. You want to get rid of the ties and the lines and, all of these things. Well, guess what? It all needs to be put together, like cards on the table. This is the house we're building.
Sure.
We can't have 15 different people building 15 different houses on the same property. We need all of everybody to be building one house together, taking everything they've got and putting it in to build this one house together. Otherwise, you're not going to have crap because it's not going to work. There's always going to be fighting. So what's the easiest way? I love you, you love me. Hey, we got married. We have mixed race kids.
Yeah. Yes,
right. They're not black. They're not white. They're something else.
Yeah. Right.
And we joined our houses. And now our houses are stronger.
Yeah.
And that keeps going. And the communities join together, and it's like, I have a friend, he's Asian, he marries a Hispanic girl. Let's bring these traditions together and try to make something new. And if their child ends up marrying a black man, let's make this work.
Yeah.
Let's blend this together. Because trying to divide, no, he's Asian. Well, he's an Asian American. He's an African American. He's an Indian American. He's a Argentinian American. He's Latinx and she's Latinas, and
but see,
all these dividing lines, of separating people is what causes issues. Because there was a line through the United States called the Mason-Dixon line that separated the North from the South. That was the people against slavery and the people for slavery. Not even all those people on the other side of the line were actually for slavery, and not all the people on the north side of the line were actually against slavery. But let's draw these lines and let's have this division. Okay, well, that goes. Well, you're black and I'm white, and they're Irish. They're less than. They're Irish. Oh, well, those Indians over there, those nasty people from India, man, their food stinks, and those French, those Polacks. There's always a line and an identifier, but yet, instead of saying, oh, I'm woke, let's get rid of these lines, let's get rid of these identifiers, let's break down these walls and barriers, and let's mix and bring my culture to your culture, and I'm offended.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be wearing that sombrero for Halloween. You're trivializing this culture, and when most of the people in Mexico don't even give two craps. They really don't care.
No.
I can't believe you wore that dress to prom. That's a traditional Chinese Asian dress, and you go to and ask a Chinese person, hey, do you have a problem with that? Oh my God, she looks beautiful.
Sure.
They wouldn't sell their stuff. They're profiting off of their culture. Same thing with sombreros and ponchos and stuff. guess what? Drive across the border in Mexico. Here's the problem. None of these people are from border towns. You go across the border into Mexico, and the amount of sombreros and ponchos and stuff that they're selling to people crossing back over the border into the United States, they want to sell it. You know, you say you're stealing their culture. It's because you don't know. You've never been there. You've never talked to these people. You talk to people who've never talked to these people, who just come up with these ideas, who are saying it, but they're selling their culture. Why? Because they want to, because there's an interest for it, because there's buyers for it, and because it helps us all live together as one.
Right.
Because when you don't divide people, when you don't say, this is the blacks area and this is the whites area, this is the blacks fountain and this is the whites fountain, when you don't say, this is the area for this is the area for Catholics and this is the area for Protestants, where this is the area for everybody but Irish. Irish need not apply. This is the area for straight people, and this is the area for gay people. This is the area. When you don't draw those lines, that division is not there. It does not happen. And there has to be some lines. Now, don't get me wrong. There has to be,
of course,
like, saying, hey, this is a place for women to play sports.
Right.
Women to play sports. Not failed male athletes to go into female sporting arenas to try and have their chance because they don't know what they're going to do. This is a women's bathroom. It's the same thing. It's why don't you ever see it the other way around?
Right.
I would love to see if it's out there, somebody please show me a transgender person going into professional male sporting and dominating. A trans man going into male sports and dominating. Where's the trans men footballers? Where's the trans men, soccer players? Where's the trans men baseball players? Where's the trans men hockey players? Where's the trans men runners? Where's the trans men MMA fighters, boxers, wrestlers? Where's the trans male dominant athletes? They don't exist because there's actual differences, genetic differences.
Right.
But those are things that you would have seen if Stephen King were still writing it how he used to.
Right.
Those are things you would have seen, commentary that you would see in modern books that you just don't see because no, Stephen, can't make commentary on that. Don't touch that subject, Stephen. You better stay away. You might get canceled. More people might refuse to buy your books than the already dropping sales numbers.
Yeah, and it just sum all this together, the whole group of kids that were in it, they symbolized so much of the importance of talking about the hardships of adversity and overcoming all of these adversities. The adversity of being bullied because you're overweight, and then internalizing all of this and carrying all of this into being to your adulthood, to where you're thin and you want your health, and you knew the importance of your health. When he was a teenager and so on and so forth, and explaining and understanding that with his mom, and then being hypochondriac with health and all that with Eddie, and with Richie using humor as a base of overcoming fear and differences, and with Bev with her sexuality and feminism and all of that. And
one thing about that, one very important aspect of
it
is these kids, the whole overarching idea of it is they overcame.
They did, yeah.
Ben overcame.
Yeah.
And he became healthy.
Right.
And he wins awards.
Right. And he was a famous architect.
Right.
I mean, not architect.
Yeah, he was an architect.
Yeah, architect. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. He became an athlete. He became a runner.
Yeah.
And then that led to something else. Will becomes a writer. Richie becomes a famous comedian.
Yeah, and DJing and
right.
all of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And they all become successful because they overcome their trauma. They don't stop fighting it. They don't run from it. They don't hide from it.
They face it.
They face it head on.
Which is the big entity of fear.
Right.
You know?
And they face it headlong, overcome it, and then realize. And what's funny is this is in their youth as they're coming of age.
Yeah.
But then when they're adults
and
they're starting to forget their fears, they realize, oh wait, hold on, there was something we need to go back. It's not gone. That fear isn't gone. Because it's the fear of when they're starting their second chapter, when they're going into their next area of life. You know, they've become successful. It's like, well, now what? It's that midlife crisis that most people go through of well, what am I going to do now? Am I doing enough? Am I there? And they go back in and they reface that childhood trauma. They reface those things that they had to deal with. And truly as adults face them again and learn that, you know what, it wasn't enough to stop me. It's not going to put me down. You're not enough to stop me. I'm taking this out now. Because they still had the issues of their trauma.
Sure.
And their issues from their past that they were holding against themselves. And it's, okay, now I'm an adult. Now I'm more student. I overcame it. Now let me get over it. I overcame. Now let me move past it.
That's right.
And that's like the main symbolism of it.
Yeah.
Is I overcame. Look at me. Now let me move past it.
Have any ending words? Yes. Okay. All right. So this reaches the end of the Harboring Light. Greatly appreciate your thoughts and perspective about this. And as I like to say, tune in and turn up, and take care.